What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Baby Sloth back at it again, bringing you a brand new video. And in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 things Anthem must get right in order for this game to be a success. Now, Anthem is a loot and shooter type based game, very similar to that of Destiny and also very similar to that of Borderlands. Now, I'm going to be referencing these two games a lot in this video and take what went wrong with both of these games and take what went right with most of these games to try and put together the perfect game and for the things that we want to see in Anthem. Now, Anthem at the moment is a game that is pretty much on the rocks completely. If you're following along with a lot of Anthem news, things aren't looking too good. A lot of developers have left, a lot of people working at the studio have left, and a lot of people working on Anthem itself have left. And this is very similar to what happened in the lead up to the release of Destiny. If you guys remember back then, loads of people were leaving the development team at Bungie before the game came out. Main writers were leaving the company, and this ended up having a massive knock-on effect on how good the game was at launch. There are a lot of people that are very nervous about Anthem because it looks to be a very, very good game. It's got massive potential, but as we found out with previous big AAA titles, potential doesn't mean everything, and sometimes these games really do fall short to deliver. So this is going to be my top 5 wish list on what I want to see in Anthem and what they must absolutely get right. If you guys are looking and interested in Anthem and want to follow along with some of the news, please feel free to subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be covering a lot of Anthem content on my channel in the future. The first and probably one of the biggest things that Anthem has to make sure that it gets right is its progression system. The progression system in Destiny was very, very linear, I found, and was pretty straightforward, and I feel like it lacked a lot of diversity. What I mean by this is the skill trees were pretty basic. You were not given a lot of options in terms of customizing how your character actually played in game, and I think this is kind of where Bungie fell short a little bit and didn't give players enough versatility in basically making their character feel unique. Whereas a game that I feel definitely succeeded in this was Borderlands 2. Now, Borderlands 2, there was about 6 characters in the game, I believe, towards the end, but each character could be played in a numerous different amount of ways. They could be played in 3 different ways, just depending on what skill tree you went down, because each character had 3 skill trees. But not only that, you could also mix and match between skill trees, and you could also mix and match the loot that you had. Different loot would mean that your character would be able to play in a completely different way, and you'd be able to have completely different builds of your character depending on loot that was basically in the game. So that made Borderlands 2 have so much replayability to it. It basically meant you could have like 10 different builds for one character, and it just made the game really, really fun and really, really interesting. It made you feel unique when linking up with your friends and taking on different challenges together. The second thing that Anthem absolutely has to get right is, again, the loot system. Very similar to the progression system, games like this, loot and shooter based games, are based on 2 things. They're based off progression, and they're also based off the loot system, and these two go hand in hand. You want to be leveling up your character and you want to feel like you're getting more powerful, but you also want to be getting new and different exciting weapons. And now the loot system is where this comes into play. Destiny, again, a game where I think they really didn't get this completely right. The exotics they have in the game are very, very cool, yes. The way in which you achieve these weapons was random, and it's really, really frustrating. It doesn't really give you a chance to grind for weapons, and that is something where I feel Bungie really let themselves down again. Because when you're trying to, say for instance, there's a weapon that you really, really want, you want to know a specific path that you have to get to in order to acquire that weapon. Whether or not that is a really difficult route or a really easy route, it really doesn't matter, because players that are really dedicated to the game and really want something are willing to spend the time and invest the time in the game in order to get that weapon, rather than just basically doing normal activities in a hope that when you kill the boss, he will drop the weapon that you want. That's not a very satisfying system. Whereas in Borderlands, they had a system which I think worked a lot better, where specific bosses would definitely drop a specific legendary weapon, but they would not always drop that weapon. So you had to basically farm the boss, but you knew the only way to get that weapon is to kill that boss, so therefore you have to stick it out, you have to grind it out and continuously kill that boss. And therefore there's a real sense of kind of satisfaction when you know that when that weapon drops, you really, really feel satisfied and feel like the grind was worth the time. Whereas it just feels a lot more frustrating when you don't necessarily know what you're doing is going to guarantee you getting the thing that you really want. So I feel like the loot system has to be improved in Anthem. I feel like they have to get it right. I believe going down a mixture of the 2 routes could work potentially, but I definitely feel like going down more of the Borderlands route, where you know that if you kill a specific enemy enough times, eventually you're going to get the thing that you require. Having some random diamond drops make the game exciting as well because they're a bit more elusive, but for the most part I would like to see a more structured based loot system within Anthem. Now this is the third thing I want to see Anthem get right, and it's a thing that Bungie absolutely smashed and did fantastically, and that was their raiding system. Never have I played a game where a raid has been so dynamic, so engaging in a first person perspective. Now I know Anthem's going to be most likely third person, but the raid system that Bungie had was so fantastic. Joining up with your friends, joining up with people you didn't necessarily know to complete complex tasks, and that had really dynamic gameplay moments, made Bungie's raids so successful. And because they were so difficult and because they were so dynamic and so engaging, it was a real experience, and it made all of their expansions so successful, because the main reason everybody buys a Bungie expansion and a Destiny expansion, in my opinion, is for the raids. It's what's really driving the PvE side of the franchise, and this is something I'd love to see Anthem include, because those moments really drive the endgame progression, and is something that is difficult enough to keep people playing, but also something you don't have to do necessarily all the time. It's something you can complete once a week if you've got a group of friends that like to play the game, and it also gives you a reason to grind on the game, because if you know that you have to be a certain level, maybe, you know, level 100 or something within Anthem to complete a raid, it's going to mean that you're going to want to grind the game out during the week in order to hit that level so that you're all ready to play that raid when it comes out. It gives you a reason to play the game, it gives you a reason to stay engaged in the game, and they're also really fun experiences, and I'd love to see Anthem include some type of raid experience. The fourth thing on my list that Anthem has to absolutely get right is boss battles. Now this is something that Borderlands had and did a lot better than Destiny did. Boss battles in Borderlands were the way to get weapons and the way to farm weapons, but they're also very challenging, and you had to build specifically for the boss that you were fighting. If you were to go up against Pyro Pete, you'd have to make sure that you had a character spec'd out to fight against him, and these boss battles were not easy whatsoever. I remember the first time I fought the Warrior in Borderlands 2, it was an absolute nightmare, and I was in there for probably about an hour thinking, why is this so difficult? But looking back on it, it's one of the best gaming experience that I had, because it was really difficult, it was really challenging, but once I completed it, I got awesome loot, and I felt really satisfied in the experience. Whereas in Destiny, I feel like their boss battles are sized to within their raids, just their normal, you know, at the end of a campaign fighting a boss. The boss battles never really feel that epic or feel that amazing, and never really feel that challenging mechanically, whereas Borderlands definitely got that right. And I have listed boss battles and raids for Anthem in a separate category, because I don't believe that Anthem is going to have a PvE arena, therefore they have more time to spend on their PvE, and because of this, it has to be twice as engaging, because if the only thing you're offering is a PvE experience, it's got to be really engaging and it's got to offer a lot. Therefore, I feel like they should have separate raids and also separate boss battles that you can take on at different points to challenge yourself in different ways and give you different content to enjoy in a solo experience or in a raid experience. Because raids, you realistically always need a group, but in terms of bosses, you don't necessarily need a group to take them on if you are spec'd out the right way, and that is something I'd like to see included in Anthem. The fifth and final thing that Anthem absolutely has to get right, and this is a thing that both Borderlands and Destiny have hit the nail on the head with, and is the reason people still play these games today, is the actual gameplay itself has to be enjoyable, it has to be fluid, and it has to be smooth. Now Destiny was a massive disaster at the start, and loads of people left the game the second they realised it was hollow of content, but the ones that stuck around were because they saw the potential of the game, but also because the gameplay was so smooth and the shooting mechanics were so good, and you cannot take that away from Destiny no matter how much you hate the game. The game's core gameplay mechanics and shooting mechanics were fantastic, felt really smooth, felt really snappy, and one of the best first person experiences you can actually have on a video game. And that is why people still stuck around and still play Destiny today. Again, with Borderlands, the first person shooting experiences feel good, they're really responsive, and it's a fun game to be in, and it's a fun game to play. And Anthem has to get that right. If Anthem doesn't actually get the core gameplay mechanics right, and it isn't fun to play, and it doesn't feel smooth, no one's going to want to stick around and play the game, no matter how good the loot system is, no matter how good the progression system is. If actually the core of the game, the core experience of actually getting on the controller, getting on the mouse and keyboard and playing the game, if that is not a fun experience, then no one's going to want to play the game. That is the fifth and final thing Anthem has to absolutely get right in order for this game to be a success. Now, I know I've listed a few of these things here. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this list and have probably agreed with some of the things that I said, because I do really expect this game to be good, and I'm really nervous for it because I feel like Things are going on behind the scenes, developers are leaving, and I feel like there's a lot riding on this game, because if this game is a success, I feel like it can absolutely take over the kind of market, because Destiny's failing right now. Borderlands 3 isn't coming out till God knows when, so I really think that there's a place for this game in the market right now, and I just really hope they can deliver on it, and this game isn't a flop like some of the other AAA games that have been released over the last few years. But that's been it from me, guys. Like I said at the beginning, if you did like this video, please let me know down in the comments down below, and if you want to see more Anthem content on my channel, please consider subscribing and sticking around. I will be doing lots of update videos on the game when I hear some news. But I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day.